we've got the Raiders versus Dolphins recap featuring, well, actually starring Michael Forrester. Mike, why don't you take the floor and tell us what went on in this game? How are Raider fans feeling? You're getting a little too close to the screen, but I kind of like it.
Uh, yeah, the Raiders lost, but in typical 2023 fashion, the first thing I have to say, okay, this is a Dolphins team that was coming off the bye for them, right? They are the top scoring offense in the league. They're averaging like 30 points a game, and they're the top yardage per game offense in the league, averaging like say around 300 yards a game, whatever it may be. And the defense for the Raiders kept this team in the game the entire way. The entire way. The Raiders led the game at the end of the first quarter, thanks to a literally last second, like there was 1 second left in the quarter, 46-yard touchdown from O'Connell to Devontae Adams. That was an absolute thing of beauty. Devontae Adams beat triple coverage, and the ball was perfectly placed. Um, Granted, that may have been the only perfectly placed football that night from Aiden O'Connell. Probably not. I mean, he had some good throws. Like, I don't think
I
his
can tell you
stats.
there was another one when he
Maybe if
put
you
the
remind
football
me.
down at the end. When he put the football down at the end of the game, that was
Oh,
a perfectly placed
like
football.
when he
Yeah,
stopped playing.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You
Gotcha.
know when he put it down.
Yeah, when he just stopped. Yeah. I see. I don't know if the stats are telling the truth about his performance. Like one touchdown, 46-yard, to Devontae, but then three interceptions. Um, I know there was one like dive. There was one interception that was just nice from Jalen. Really, both of Jalen Ramsey's interceptions were just like, damn, he's still that dude. Like he is still that guy for sure. Um, and that's going to be
I'm
a
him.
you know
I'm
that'll
him.
be a welcome thing for the Dolphins fans. Especially leading towards the playoffs. If they can win that division, and you have Jalen Ramsey out there on defense, like they can make noise. Obviously in the playoffs. But anyway, those two, I hated. I really did not like the decision to throw the pass that he did to end the game. I watched the replay. I see Amir Abdullah on the other side of the field in the flat, like just jumping with his hands up, like throw it here, dude. He had like 7 yards from the nearest defender. He could have caught the ball, turned around, went out of bounds, first down, probably on like the 25-yard line. And there's still, let's say, 30 seconds left. Like they had a shot. They had a shot to win this game. And I think O'Connell maybe just wanted to play hero ball, or really what probably happened was he didn't see the safety lurking from the right side. I know I just skipped all the way to the end of the game, but I just have to talk about this pass.
That's
Um,
how I tell stories, man. I go to the end and then I come
yeah,
back and yeah.
I'm always going on tangents, so forgive me if I ever forget what I was starting with. But uh,
Lord forgive me.
yeah, I mean, he was throwing the ball to Trey Tucker quite a bit in this game, um, and I like Trey Tucker, but he clearly makes rookie mistakes. There was one incompletion where he tried to do a toe drag catch on the sideline, and I think he just barely got his foot out of bounds, and that was like on a third down. And we had to punt. It was like if you just barely get your foot in, but that I can't really fault him. Like that's tough. But the first Jalen Ramsey interception, I think it was a bad pass because um like Trey Tucker came out of his cut. He was doing like an in route, whatever you call that, and it should be like he cuts right and keeps running. But once he cut right, he stopped because the ball was coming to him, and then Jalen Ramsey just cuts in front of him and picks it off. And then at the end of the game, obviously, O'Connell threw it because it looks like Trey Tucker has this dude beat. He's beating Jalen Ramsey for the middle of the end zone on a post. But the safety from the right side of the field comes right on over. If Jalen Ramsey doesn't get there, the safety can at least bat it down, if not pick it. But Jalen Ramsey comes back and picks it off. And again, it was a nice play from Ramsey, but I just didn't like the decision to try to go for that on a deep pass because other than the Devontae Adams pass, the deep passing attempts were not working for O'Connell. So again, 3 interceptions for O'Connell. This was definitely his worst game. I mean, I didn't even talk about the second one. The second one was bad. And he was just trying to not get sacked. It was 4th down. Like, I can't get mad at him, but at the same time, it's like, I think we were in field goal range. Like, and if that's true, then what was the final? Okay, 20-13. So, point being, let's say he doesn't throw that second interception, right? And I think it'll be on the cover of this thumbnail, but it's when he's getting almost sacked and he throws the ball, and it just like kind of fumbles out of his hand, and then number 15 Phillips, or I forget his name, but the defensive end for the Dolphins picks it off. It's like if they were in field goal range, you can kick that, and then on the next possession, you could potentially kick another field goal, but they were down 20-13, so that would only made it 20-19. So a field goal actually doesn't matter. So I'm getting all over the place.
16?
Well, no, let's say he doesn't throw the pick, so then they kick the field goal. Now it's 20-16. So I'm saying if they, on the final drive, kick another field goal, it'd be 20-19. It doesn't matter. You still need a touchdown. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, that's the difference between going for a touchdown to tie the game and to win the game at the end of the game, right? And instead he throws a stupid pick and yada, yada, yada. But I think so. The big differences in this game, like the Raiders defense forced turnovers. They were stopping the Dolphins offense. They got a big 4th down stop. Nate Hobbs had a huge tackle for loss early in the game. But the interceptions from O'Connell, kept the Dolphins in the game at the end, or at least prevented the Raiders from winning the game, right? And then another big difference is the rushing games for the 2 respective teams. I said they needed to stop the run, and Achane got hurt on his second carry or first carry. Didn't come back in the game, but Mostert still had 22 carries for 86 yards. But bigger than that to me is Josh Jacobs with 14 carries for 39 yards. And I said in our preview of this game, he should have 30 touches. And he got not even half of that. Or maybe he got half of that with a catch or something. But I'm watching the game and I'm like, man, like again, at the end of the first quarter, they had the lead 10-7. Run the ball. 4th quarter, you're trying to force passes. Run the ball. Like, I know you don't want to give up time, but like Jacobs is that guy. He's that dude. He's him. Like, let him get the ball. Granted, 14 for 39. Clearly, it wasn't working out very well. Perhaps the Dolphins' rush defense was just getting the job done, and Bo Hardegree realized, we got to pass. We got to pass in this one. Maybe. But, they never got the lead back at any other point in the game. They had it in the first quarter, and then Dolphins kept the lead from then on. But a loss is a loss, but there are little moral victories here and there, and I feel like the defense keeping the Dolphins down to 20 points and keeping the Raiders in the game the entire time. I mean, the end of the third quarter, it was 14-13 Dolphins. Complete toss-up. The fourth quarter could have gone either way. The Raiders could have won. And then what are we saying, right? I mean, if O'Connell gets let's say doesn't get the second interception and then gets a game-winning touchdown at the end, it's like that's just 2 drives. Big difference. And we're all saying whoa, look out for the Raiders, man. They're 6-5. And they're right on the cusp of that 7th seed or whatever. But now we're 5-6. Got the Chiefs coming up a couple times in the next 4 weeks. Right. And I mean, I was going to mention when we were talking about the Niners, I said the Seahawks are a wild card team. They should make the playoffs. And the reason why is because they're 6-4. The Vikings are 6-4, 6-5. Maybe the Seahawks are 6-5. I don't know. But the next closest team in that wild card race is 4-6. It's like they still have 2 games on them. Whereas the AFC, you got to be okay. Well, like 7-3 Browns, 6-4, 6-5 Steelers. Same for the Texans. But then like the next team might be the Bills, and they're also like 6-5. The Colts are up there somewhere. I think they're still 5-5. The Raiders are 5-6. The Broncos are on a 4-game win streak, and they're 5-5. They went from in 1 week. They went from 4th to 2nd in the AFC West. So, I just the AFC is essentially loaded with wild card potential teams, and I think the road is looking pretty tough for the Raiders. But as we keep saying, you just got to take it one game at a time, and hopefully you can go out there and beat the Chiefs. I think the way that they performed against the Dolphins tells me that they can, but it doesn't tell me that they will, right?
Mm-hmm. Just real quick, I pulled up the AFC and NFC playoff standings so far.
I did not realize the Ravens were the 1 seed.
Yes, the Ravens are the 1 seed at 8-3. For a second, I was like 5-5, and they're the 1 seed. What the hell is going on with the AFC? No, they beat the Bengals, who are 5-5. Who the Bengals might not make the playoffs, dude.
No, they won't.
Joe Burrow went down, I think.
Yeah, Browning isn't good.
Yeah, so 8-3 Ravens, 7-3 Chiefs, who the Raiders are going to play next. 7-3 Jacksonville Jaguars, 7-3 Dolphins, who the Raiders just played and almost beat. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the game. 7-3 Browns, 6-4 Texans, 6-4 Steelers.
Yeah, so you have to have 6 wins to be in the wild card, and the Bills have 6 wins. They're sitting on the outside right now, and the Raiders currently have a losing record, so they need like 2 straight wins to get back up into the winning column. It's going to take a while, and I think at that point, let's say they lose to the Chiefs, and then I think it's the bye week. Then they have the Vikings. Let's say they beat the Vikings, okay. Then they have the Chiefs again, I think, and then you have like the Colts, Chargers, and Broncos, not in that order. I mean, the Chargers are playing like shit. They might even have an interim coach at that point.
Yeah.
Maybe you can beat the Chargers. I think you can beat the Broncos, and you can beat the Colts. But is it too late at that point? Is a team like, if you scroll up, the Texans, the Steelers, Browns, or Bills, are they just too far ahead of us? Just like my fantasy team this year?
I'm playing Mike this week in fantasy, and I told Mike that I'll try and take it easy on him because Mike's got a little bit of a banged up back, but I don't know. Mike's gonna have to prepare somehow.
Yeah, I'm like 3-8. I gotta win out to have any chance, but
prepare them cheeks, Michael. Prepare them cheeks.
But yeah, and then look at the NFC comparatively. It's like 4-6. Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, 4-6.
Yeah, but the teams that are in are 6-5, 6-4.
Right, but like if the Raiders were in the NFC, it'd be like, oh, we just need to win like 2 games and we're in.
Yeah,
but the AFC, it's like, good luck.
What's funny though is like, all right, you look at the AFC and then it's like, all right, it's loaded. And this is kind of your point. It's loaded. I don't know if I would call the Steelers loaded, but all these teams are looking pretty good, except for like these bottom 3 teams and the Steelers.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think this. I don't know if
I still think
make the playoffs. I think the Bills get in over them.
I mean, the Bills should, and I hope they do. For God's sakes, that would make the playoffs way more fun. But and the Bills are probably going to get really serious right now. Like, let's be honest. And their offense played really well since firing what's his name. But also the Steelers, Yeah, and the Steelers fired Matt Canada finally, so that'll be interesting. Like I still think Kenny Pickett has potential, but he
I don't
hasn't
like him.
played. Yeah, he hasn't played like a guy who was drafted in the first round yet. I think the Texans will make it above them. I think they're hot. They are on fire right now. Now,
Mhm.
honestly, the Browns, that's a big question. They went out there and they started Dorian Thompson Robinson. I hope I said his name right.
Yes.
And they won a classic AFC divisional game against the Steelers. 13-10 or something like that.
Yeah,
So,
the thing about the Browns is they've got such a good offensive line, and they've got, I think
and a great
Jerome Ford
defense.
is a little bit underrated. They got a great defense. It's a recipe to win football games. Like,
Oh,
the quarterback is
it's
the
old
most
school.
important position, but man, the offensive line, it's the most important unit because if you have a terrible offensive line, the quarterback can't do anything. And if you have a great offensive line like the Browns do, then you are going to allow a a quarterback who's less talented or less skilled and experienced be able to make good plays, right? And be able to get the offense where it needs to be. And I'm not saying that the Browns are still going to be Super Bowl favorites. No, it's eventually going to catch up to them. But it's enough to keep them afloat and them possibly just make the playoffs by winning. I mean, they're 7-3 right now. That hot start, they could just like kind of coast. You know what I mean? I would say that they need to win 2 more games or 3 more games and they're in.
You know who I could see them beating in the playoffs?
The Steelers?
Well, they wouldn't face them. They'd both be wild cards, but
The
I could see him
Dolphins?
beating I could see him beating the Jaguars.
That'd be crazy.
I could see
I
it.
th- that would stain Trevor Lawrence's career.
It would not be good.
Yeah. Um,
So
but yeah, going back to the whole, the Raiders versus Dolphins game itself, and Anthony, I hope I didn't scare you off earlier when I cursed at you. We we like you. Uh, so things to be optimistic about for the Raiders. You guys gave the Dolphins the ball three times. There were no fumbles on top of O'Connell's interceptions, right?
I don't think there were,
Mm-hmm.
but continue.
So
No, there weren't. There weren't. Sorry.
3 turnovers right there, and you're still a touchdown away from tying the game against a really good offense, right? Like your offense was almost non-existent on Sunday.
Especially in the second half. Like, actually, starting in the second quarter. That was something I didn't say. Like, first quarter, you got that bomb to Devontae. It was like, oh, dude, let's go. And then once the second quarter started around, it was like the offense just died. And I don't know. I saw something from I think Hondo Carpenter saying, I hope that's his last name, um, that they're still kind of in the early process on this offense, and you know, making things not comfortable, but like accessible for Aiden O'Connell, right, and maybe easy for him or whatever. So it's like they're they're running a simplistic offense, and that was the other thing he said was they saw a lot of hard looks from Vic Fangio on the defensive side. Like apparently early in the game, it was very simplistic, and they had a good, what do you call that? Opening,
Opening script.
opening game script. Yep, for the offense, and they executed right. They scored 10 points. They took the lead, but then Vic Fangio starts throwing out harder looks at them, and the script is no longer the script. It gets hard on the rookie, right? So I get that. But man, their offense died, like was non-existent. I think I saw a tweet that was like, this was like late in the second quarter, if not early third quarter. It was like, oh, nice, the Raiders finally got their longest play since the first quarter. a run for 3 yards or something like that. It was like, fuck, like yeah, that's what it felt like. So, but it was a true like statement. It was something like that. It was like maybe 3 to 5 yards was their longest play in a whole quarter or something. I was like, so,
Yeah.
but yeah,
So
again,
when you have
yeah,
a young, like, a young quarterback like O'Connell who's in his first season starting, you're going to go through some ups and downs. Like there are going to be some good weeks and some bad weeks, unless you're CJ Stroud, right? CJ Stroud's tearing it up. But there are typically going to be growing pains, and like I think the defense played very well. Like Tyreek Hill was killing him a little bit early on, but you guys seem to have been able to slow him down, after the first half at least, because I mean, at
well,
least they didn't
he got
score a
injured.
lot.
He got injured. He ended up with like 10 catches or 11 catches for like 140 yards and a touchdown. Like he had a great game. That's just Tyreek Hill. But he did also get injured at one point, and he was out for like a good maybe 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah, but a lot of that was in the first half.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm not trying to not give credit to the defense. They were able to limit that offense, and it was impressive. And again, I mean, that offense is coming out of the bye week, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like theoretically, they should be like good to go and have all their tricks up their sleeve. And maybe not having HN after the first drive hurt them, but you have Waddle, you have Hill, you have Mostert. I think they can do without HN.
I think it's a testament to how good this Raiders defense actually has been playing. And
I agree.
another thing I wanted to say is I saw something that was hilarious on Sunday where it was right as Tyreek Hill was going to the locker room, and he's like clearly grabbing his wrist and complaining about his wrist, right? I saw something that was like, Carissa Thompson reports that Tyreek Hill is dealing with an ankle sprain. There's something like that.
And that was the lady that said like, oh, sometimes I make up sideline reports.
Dude, that's so crazy. Good. If you do that, never say that. Like,
never. Right. You should never admit that. That's horrible.
That's the worst thing. That would be like if Dr. Fauci came out and was like, "Oh yeah, the COVID vaccine. Yeah, we've been shooting sugar into your bloodstream, this whole time." Like if he would have just said it like on a podcast, right?
Right.
I mean, obviously that would be a way bigger deal than a sideline reporter, but like, you just absolutely destroy the integrity of every report that like you've made and that you're going to make. It's like if a coach blows you off, don't cut to the sideline and tell us, "Oh, Brandon Staley says that we need to be better on third down." Like, I would rather watch a commercial than hear a fake report.
Well, I'd rather her just tell the truth. And Brandon Staley was not interested,
visibly upset, and didn't have any words to share. He's going to the locker room, very emotional.
Give me that.
Yeah,
give me that. Don't lie to me. But her point was like, well, they're never going to be upset if I tell them the obvious of like, oh, we need to stop on third down, run the ball better, and blah, blah. I was like, okay, but you're lying.
He says we need to hold on to the football.
Yeah. I'm like, that is like the exact opposite of what your job is entitled to do. That is not good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So. I couldn't believe I couldn't believe it. But yeah, I think there are better days ahead for the Raiders, but maybe not this upcoming week. Are we ready to transition to the Raiders versus Chiefs preview, or you got a little bit more you want to get off your chest?
Yeah, just one more thing. Like, and this could go for the Chiefs game too, but I'll just leave it in this just because it's kind of on topic. Like, you just mentioned, like, this is another good sign for the defense and the defensive staff. Like, this entire season, I've been saying, and like early on, it was like, wow, like the defense kept them in that game. And then it's like week 3, week 4, week 5. It's like the defense is keeping them in games. And then it's week 7. It's like, the defense kept them in that game. Even the Lions game, when we ended up getting killed, it's like, but early on, the defense kept us in the game. Our offense sucked. Still kind of sucks. But, and then you go on a 2-game win streak, it's like the defense won the game. Here's my worry, okay? Like I said, the road to the playoffs is tough, and I don't think that Mark Davis is sitting there going, they have to make the playoffs or else they're not staying. Like, I think he's going to be very open to whatever, I hope, I guess. But I'm not all in on Antonio Pierce. I love what I'm seeing from him, right? But I'm giving him a shot to prove it to me, right?
A tryout.
Yeah. And I'm not going to, just because he's, yelling Raiders like a true Raider fan, and he's a fan at heart and everything, Raider in his blood, right? Just because of all that doesn't mean that I have to be all in on him. I need to see him prove it. I've seen him I think it was the Jets game. He threw a challenge flag that was not challengeable. I know he doesn't have that much coaching experience, but it's like, I don't want that next year when I want to make the playoffs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or in a big game. Let's just say week 18, Raiders versus Broncos. This won't happen, but winner makes the playoffs, just like the Chargers game 2 seasons ago. Do I want him throwing a challenge flag on an interception or something that he can't challenge? I'd be like, oh fuck. That's a minor complaint because that's only happened once, but there were other he's made some timeouts where I'm like, oh, that's a interesting time to make a timeout, but I haven't complained yet about that. Just, there were a few times, namely, I think in the Giants game, he took a timeout on a 2-point conversion, I think. I was like, huh, okay. So
Question.
little things like that. Yeah.
I sent you something the other day, or it might've been yesterday, where Mark Davis was visibly upset with something Antonio Pierce did. Did that?
Well, I don't know where it was, but I think I remember seeing it, but I didn't even think about it in the moment. I was just kind of focused on what down it was or whatever. I think it was after an incomplete pass, and the camera first shows Antonio Pierce, and then it shows Mark Davis up in the stands, and he's visibly upset and saying something. And I don't really know much else. I can't even really speculate on it, but
it was this. I sent you this. Raiders Beat tweets out that TV cameras captured an angry Mark Davis after the Raiders passed on a field goal in the fourth quarter. Any lip readers out there?
Yes. Okay. Let me was
link. Let me see.
While you do, that was another decision that I was sitting there going, ooh, I don't know. They went for it on 4th down and they didn't get it. And that, I want to say, let me look. I want to say that was before the second Aiden O'Connell interception. So, at the very beginning of this, I was saying, oh, it was 13-20. So theoretically, if he doesn't get the second interception, you could kick a field goal 16-20. And then on the final drive, 19-20. Well, if he doesn't go, he doesn't attempt a field goal on, say, 3 drives back, that could have made it 16. Second drive, 19. Final drive, 22 to win the game, right? You're not playing to make field goals, especially against Miami, so I get it. But I do remember when they didn't go for it, or they went for it on 4th down, but they were clearly in field goal range. I was like, ooh, I think I'm kicking it here. It was 4th and 5 or 4th and 6. So go ahead.
Mm-hmm. So here is the here's where Mark Davis gets upset. What I think he says, what the fuck is he doing? Look.
Or what are you guys doing or something? What the fuck are you guys doing?
What the fuck is... Oh, maybe what are you guys doing?
Or what is he doing? He looks like a kid.
No, I swear he drops an F-bomb right there.
Oh, for sure.
what or why the fuck is
he?
why
Is
the-
he?
Okay, hold on.
So maybe why the fuck is he going for it?
Maybe. Let me play it in full speed.
Yeah, let it. Yeah, just play it.
Why?
Or why
Or
the fuck is
perhaps
he doing that?
maybe. I mean, maybe he's not even talking about Pierce. Maybe he got served something like, he asked for extra salt on his fish that he ordered and he's eating right now. See, there's a napkin.
That's funny. What's interesting is it's 2nd and 15. It looks like it's for the Dolphins because it's teal, but also the person sitting in front of him is Sandra Douglas, the president of the Raiders, and you can tell she's shaking her head too. So I don't know what they're reacting to, but they both agree, I think.
I don't know. So that's definitely something to look out for. It's the little things in between that, like,
I do have one more point to what I was saying, and I'll try to pull up the replay of the game. Maybe I can find that. It was 7 minutes and 30 seconds left. I can maybe find the previous play, but here's my fear. Just take the 3.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe this was right after they attempted the 4th down, didn't get it. Dolphins get the ball back. They run a play on 1st down. Then they pan to Mark Davis, and it's like he's just lashing out about them not going for a field goal,
Yeah, maybe he's upset. Also, Joel, welcome back. Thank you for coming back to support.
Welcome on in. Appreciate it. So here's my final thought on not the Dolphins game, but really overall. Again, I'm giving Antonio Pierce the opportunity. I mean, really, Mark Davis is, but to win me over, right? And I like what I've seen, but he hasn't won me over to earn the job yet, right? He's made mistakes. He's made interesting decisions, and I if I'm being honest, like just my initial 3-game prognosis, whatever you want to call it, diagnosis, is that he isn't quite ready to be an NFL head coach. Granted, he's doing a fine job. It's just he's making mistakes and stuff here and there. Might be minor, but you sent me a text about or a tweet really, but the Raiders players are taking over the locker room.
It's full on. It's a full on takeover. It's a player. The players have absolutely. They're in charge.
Yeah, I think
it's a player-led team.
Yeah, and like ding dong, the witch is dead in response to McDaniels being fired. And you had a thought about that too, but
this is what it says. I'll bring it up.
Yeah,
it's relevant. So let's see here. This is from Dove Kleiman on Twitter or on X. Update: the Raiders players have "quote unquote" taken over the team, according to I think that's Diana Rossini. Rossini. Yeah, Diana Rossini. From the report, "quote unquote," the players have taken over this place. Ownership is fine with it too. Another source said it's like ding dong, the witch is dead, since Josh McDaniels and general manager Dave Ziegler were shown the door. Excuse me. After a year and a half at the helm. Interim head coach Antonio Pierce is now 2-1, but 2-0 since taking over, and he has empowered his players to be themselves. It's been working. I told what Mike is going to tell you is that he and I are sort of in agreement that long term, all right, short term, it's kind of fine. You know what I mean? Because Josh McDaniels is out of the door, but I think long term it could be dangerous. Because the second this team stops winning, like really, if there is no order in the locker room, they're going to start to lose respect for Pierce little by little. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, why do we have to listen to him? We're fine, just how we're doing. There has to be some sort of order in an NFL locker room, and that's part of one of the most important things that a head coach can do is be the leader. But if you have like a full on like democracy, what's stopping them from voting you out when things aren't going right?
Right. Or it's like it's us or the coach or something like that. Or players start demanding trades or whatever, or it just gets so hectic that it becomes toxic, period. So it, like you said, it's cool short term. It is, but I don't think I want this player run thing long term. I can see it being the cool, like, oh, it's like the old school Raiders. It's just like they don't give a shit and blah 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 blah. Like they're the bad boys or whatever. But I still feel like you need a great coach, So that's all that. But here's my fear, okay? And this isn't about that. Let's say Antonio Pierce is clearly not worth, keeping as the head coach. For one thing, is he willingly cool with not being demoted, but falling back down to linebacker coach? Is he cool with staying, or is he like, well, if I'm up for interim and I'm getting interviewed now for the head coaching job and I don't get it, like with your permission or what, I'd like to be relieved of my duties to go potentially get a job elsewhere. Like, I don't know. Maybe because he has Raider in his blood and all that, he wants to stay, but that could be a power struggle. Keeping him on, like, okay, here is my fear.
Might be a little embarrassing, right?
A little bit, yeah. But then also you have a new head coach and the ex-head coach is still in there. Like, it kind of works for the Broncos right now because they have Sean Payton, who's he's going to be the head coach. And then they also brought back Vance Joseph to be their defensive coordinator. He was their head coach before. But it's not like he was last year. He was like 3 years ago. There's been a big period of time. But this one, it's like, I think the players clearly have Pierce's back, just like they had Bazakia's 2 years ago. Do you really want to keep him in the locker room? So here's my fear. This Raider defense is finally playing good, if not great football. I'm going to say good football, like really good football. I'm not going to say great, but really good football. They are keeping this team in games. They're keeping the shitty offense in the game, every game. Every single one, except for the Bears game, let's say, which of all games, the Bears game. But every other game, the defense has kept them in it. If Pierce isn't the guy, does that mean that they get a new head coach and Patrick Graham is relieved of his duties? That's my fear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Antonio Pierce, I like him, but if he has to go, okay, he has to go. But, like, I think the guy that's not getting enough credit is Patrick Graham. So if you let him go and you get a new scheme for the defense and all the starters have to learn this new scheme and they have to get all the new verses and variables and whatever, right? All the new verbiage and everything. That takes time. And you're just starting right back over again. I don't care if every single starter returns. It's completely different. I do not want that. That's my fear. They're going to go right back to square one, the same old Raider defense as usual. They're going to be giving up big plays and sucking when their offense is going to suddenly be good. And they're going to be right back to 6 wins, enjoy your 15th overall pick, yada, 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 for the next 3 years.
You know who's the one head coach out there who, if the Raiders hired, it might be a smoother transition? Also, is my connection good?
I think so. I mean, you're kind of freezing up a little bit. I hear you fine.
Okay.
It might be my connection, though.
No. I think it's on my end this time. Okay. But do you want to know who's the one head coach who has shown to have a seamless transition, stepping into a team with talent? You know who I'm going to say.
Yeah, well, if I know this, then it's Harbaugh.
Yeah. Jim Harbaugh, I think would be a good coach. And there's been a lot of talk I've seen on Twitter, from Raider fans on whether or not the Raiders should hire Harbaugh. And hey, I can vouch for him. I think he's a hell of a head coach. If he stepped back in, you know, into the NFL, I think he would probably still be successful. And I mean, there's probably a lot of investigating still left to do on what's been going on at Michigan. But you know what they say, innocent until proven guilty. But man, it would be another tragedy if the Raiders suddenly hired Harbaugh and then all of a sudden all the evidence comes out and then he gets punished. And that would be so dramatic and so chaotic. And
Yeah. Although I don't know if anything that he's done in the NCAA would actually affect him in the NFL. Everything that his team's been accused of, other than one of the side coaches getting accused of, like, you know, targeting a young woman. That one you don't want to be involved with. But like potentially cheating or whatever, like in NCAA, like will that actually affect him in the NFL?
well, you'd be surprised because then out of nowhere he'll be slapped with like a fraud. You know, like, oh, they're suing Jim Harbaugh for fraud because of the gambling and, you know, all this, that, and the other.
Yeah. And I'm
You know
not
what I
trying to
mean?
blow off. Yeah. I'm not, by the way, I'm not trying to like blow off I said, you know, targeting a young woman like that coach. Fuck him.
Yeah.
I don't get that shit, but anyways.
Real quick, Pia's dad has a great question for you, and I'm gonna leave it on the screen. I'm gonna see if I leave the studio and come back in if my connection will be better.
Okay. So I'll just start answering.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Do I think that Antonio Pierce has the players' respect and trust? Absolutely. I think in part because he's the one that's empowering them right now to apparently, you know, take over this locker room. But I think because also he's a former player, I think that also has a big effect on the players in their trust and respect for him. They know that he's done this, he's been a part of this, he's won a Super Bowl. He was a captain, right? He made big plays for that team, for those Giants teams that he played on. So, yeah, I think it's pretty clear that they have a lot of respect and trust in him. And I really like that, you know, and I like, again, the fact that he's a Raider at heart and all those things. I just think at the end of the day, when you're choosing a head coach at, you know, come the off season, you have to bear in mind, like, okay, is he actually like ready for it? You know, I like he can. I see a lot of rookie mistakes in him, just like O'Connell, right? And maybe he can progress, and in year two, he's a great head coach, and he's one of those guys like a Dan Campbell. I'm not going to say that he should be compared to him, but just in the sense of like they really get their locker room right, you know. And something I was saying 2 weeks ago was, hey man, if you're going to be that guy that's like hasn't done it hasn't had the experience sort of head coach, like a guy that just he's interim, he's kind of shoved into this role. Good luck. Yeah, leave it to your offensive and defensive coordinators to call the plays, and you just lead the team. And that's what he's doing. And he's doing a fine job of it. The only things that he's making mistakes on for me are timeouts and challenge flags. Now, he actually made a great challenge in this Dolphins game, but like I said, against the Jets, he made one that he couldn't make, and he lost a timeout because of it. So, but again, I think they're rookie mistakes, but at the end of the day, he's a former player. He's been on the staff for 2 years. And yes, the players, I think, respect and trust him for sure.